we had this year Mitt Romney, the man who gave us Romneycare, the blueprint for Obamacare, the man who said, let GM and Chrysler go bankrupt, go through bankruptcy, but with federal government guarantees. Where is that in the Constitution? Furthermore, where is that in Article 2, in the presidential or executive powers? It is not there. The only role for Congress in the Constitution when it comes to the subject of bankruptcies is to establish a uniform law regarding bankruptcies. Uniform. Not government guarantees for this company going through bankruptcy, but not that one. That's not a uniform law, is it? And yet the Constitution specifically says uniform laws regarding bankruptcies. So, Mitt Romney, the guy who gave us Romneycare and hence Obamacare, the individual mandate, which I lovingly refer to as Harry Care because it was Harry Reid's bill, it was Harry Reid's plan, not Obama's, but I digress again. The man who said, well, let's have the taxpayers back up GM and Chrysler when they go through bankruptcy. That's the guy that the GOP handed us. And you want to say they nominated a conservative this time around? I don't think so. Before that, who did we have? Oh, John McCain. The guy who wanted to throw the borders wide open. Or, no, he wanted comprehensive immigration reform. Oh, we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. Let's see, who did we have before that? Oh, George W. Bush, twice. And how conservative was that guy? So conservative that we established the Department of Homeland Security, passed the Patriot Act, passed Medicare Part D, the Prescription Drug Act, which right now, let me pull it up real quick. You can follow along with me, usdebtclock.org. If you've eaten recently, don't bother. You will lose your lunch. Or dinner, as the case may be, here on the East Coast. Nonetheless, let's see. Yes, Medicare prescription drugs. Medicare Part D. The unfunded liability for that program at the moment is upwards of 21 trillion with a T, $21 trillion. Just from that one program. Thank you, W. To put that in perspective, the unfunded liability for Social Security, the entire Social Security program, unfunded liabilities, $16 trillion. And that's been around for how long? Since the 30s. The Prescription Drug Act was passed in 2003. Or was it 2003 or 2005? Who cares? It's been around for less than a decade. Either way. Less than a decade. And the unfunded liability is already $21 trillion. Social Security has been around since the 1930s. Unfunded liability, $16 trillion. FDR was a horrible man for putting in place these entitlement programs, right? But yet we give W a pass for a program that, if it had been instituted at the same time as FDR's Social Security program, would be right now upwards of what comes after trillion? You get the picture. So yes, the GOP has given us some great conservatives just since the turn of the century, haven't they? Oh, and before W? Let's see, who did we have as the Republican nominee before W? Oh, that's right, Bob Dole. Bob Dole, the man whose wife has an entire term named after her, being on the dole. Well, big conservative there, sure. And before that, who did we have? Oh, George H.W. Bush, that's right, the guy the GOP wanted as their nominee in 1980. And they used him to fight Ronald Reagan tooth and nail in 1980 in the primary process for the GOP presidential nomination. Yeah, great conservative there, too. Let's see, what did he give us? Read my lips, no new taxes. Oh, look, my lips moved. We have new taxes. Lovely. And even Ronald Reagan, even though he fought the GOP establishment tooth and nail in order to get that nomination, he wasn't a GOP-approved presidential nominee. Even Reagan had some faults and failings, mostly, actually, due to the fact that the Republican senators opposed him every step of the way, and he had a Democratic-controlled House. But, be that as it may, let's see, let's go back before that. Who did we have as a nominee in 76? Who gave us Carter? Oh, that would be Gerald Ford. What did Gerald Ford do that was so conservative? I'll give you some time to think. Who did we have before that? Oh, Richard Nixon. Before that, Barry Goldwater, who fought the GOP tooth and nail to get the nomination because they opposed him every step of the way and opposed him after he got the nomination. Abandoned him after he got the nomination. Let's see, who did we have before that? I'm not too up on my history here. Let's see. GOP presidential nominees since 1900. Let's just do that. See if we can find a nice little list here. Let's go to Wikipedia. Why not? Let's see. GOP presidential nominees. Okay. See, we had Barry Goldwater in 64. Oh, look at that. Going back to 1960. Who was the nominee then? Richard Nixon. Lost. Okay. And who did we have before that? Oh, Dwight Eisenhower. Dwight Eisenhower. Okay. And he won because of what? Yes, he was a general. He was a war hero. And fresh off of the war, in 52 and 56, he was elected president for the GOP. What did he do that was so conservative? I will I will let you I'll let you stew on that for a little while. Before that, let's see. Oh, New York Governor Thomas Dewey was the nominee in 1944 and 1948. Why did we not know that? Because he was barely a blip on the Electoral College radar in both of those campaigns. And 1940, who ran against FDR? Wendell Willkie was the nominee for the GOP. Trying to remember anything conservative he did. I'm at a loss. 1936. Alf Landon, Kansas governor, was the GOP nominee for president. And before that, 1932, they ran Herbert Hoover, running for re-election in 1932, and lost, of course, to FDR. In 1928, he won. He was Commerce Secretary before he became president there, and he was the GOP nominee in 1928. And what did he do that was so damn conservative? Oh, that's right. He had the very same banking practices that George W. Bush did at the end of his term, and the same practices that were carried forward by Barack Obama. And, by the way, the same banking practices that were carried forward by FDR in 1932. So before that, we had Harding and Coolidge, who were eminently conservative. Coolidge, especially, was a first principles conservative, talked about the Constitution very eloquently, and instituted policies that brought us what? The Roaring Twenties. How about that? So, since 1928, the GOP approved presidential candidates, every last one of them, since and including 1928, every last GOP presidential nominee that was GOP approved, had the whole stamp and seal of approval from the GOP, has been a what? Well, anywhere running along the scale from moderate to progressive. And we say, oh, well, the GOP didn't learn their lesson from 2008. Maybe they'll learn their lesson from 2012. Folks, they still have not learned their lesson from 1928. Think about it.
This is Aiden, and my daddy is right. Back after these messages on the CB Media Network.
This is not a message of happiness or reassurance. It is a crisis of confidence. The productivity of American workers is naturally dropping.
We aren't out there hungry, selling America. We've been a little bit lazy, I think, over the last couple of decades.
The symptoms of this crisis of the American spirit are all around us.
We've lost our ambition, our imagination.
You go to a bank and you use an ATM. You don't go to a bank teller.
The country that had gotten a little soft.
Change cannot happen overnight. What can we do? We've been a little bit lazy.
I was in chronic pain, and my family struggling to make ends meet, food and gas prices going up, even keeping my job was iffy.
Then I learned about a new miracle drug made in Washington, D.C. Spenditol. Spenditol is Washington's answer to all the painful problems Americans face. How to borrow $800 billion for a stimulus that didn't create jobs or fix the economy? Spenditol.
Spenditol is not for everyone. Side effects may include a mountain of government debt piled on our kids, a sudden loss of freedoms, higher prices for everything, leaving our kids a lesser America than we had. Ask your doctor or congressman if your conscience is strong enough for Spenditol.
And it's so popular in Washington, we have to import trillions more of it from China. Spenditol makes you feel better now and pushes off the really bad stuff till later, for them to deal with.
Call the White House and Congress. Tell them, stop spending it all.
Another way I would say it is to my Republican friends, take back your party, so that it doesn't matter so much who wins the election, because we have shared values about, again, the education of our children, the growth of our economy, how we defend our